Hello, beautiful people. I am Rachel Augusta, and I work with animals who are sick, injured, diseased, have been abused, suffer from old age or trauma. And I am doing a series called Women Holding Women. And what this really is a chance for me to deliver experts in their field to you so that you can hear what these women are doing to change the world. And I'm so excited and change your world. And so I'm so excited to introduce to you today a friend of mine. She's in my Women Speak Mastermind. Her name is Christine, and Christine is Soriano, and she's an expert, innovator, and compassionate speaker in the elder care industry. As a consultant dedicated to shifting the paradigm of how we care for our elders and a highly successful operator of a 6-bed care facilities in the Bay Area for 13 years, she understands the necessity of a community that is centered around caring, compassionate staff that values creating a family-like environment for its residents. She is committed to revolutionizing the industry of elder care by transforming how small and large communities operate and educating others on how to do the same. She's committed to bridging medical professionals and research leaders to the residents, care staff, and families, and help reduce the use of opioids and other harmful drugs with elders by focusing on a holistic approach. Hi, Christine.
Hi, Rachel.
I'm
Thank you.
so glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yes.
having me.
Yes. So, for everybody watching or listening, the reason why I really wanted to bring Christine onto the show is because, into this series, Women Holding Women, is because let's just be real. We're all gonna get old at some point, and most of us have parents, and we have to think about what to do with them. But this is something that I think we should just be thinking about in general, whether we have parents or not, even just ourselves. And one of the things I really love about Christine is that she's really committed to helping these people in senior care facilities not let go of the things that mean a lot to them when they're in their homes, like family, which includes the animals they live with. Correct? Is that right, Christine?
Absolutely. It's such a huge part of their lives.
Yeah. And so often when people go into elderly care facilities, they end up not being able to bring their animals with them. Is that right?
All the time. You see lots of facilities that are only dedicated to caring for their residents and they're not thinking about the animals.
Right. It's such a, like, I know from my work in the world, I see this happen a lot that animals end up, they have this like years with their guardian. And, the human loves them. They love the human. They're deeply bonded. And then their human guardian has to go into senior care, and the children just dump the animal off at a shelter. And often these animals are old and are just quickly euthanized. And so I love that in your facilities, do you always let them keep the animals?
Yes. As long as the families are willing to continue to provide the food for them and get them vaccinated every year.
Oh, okay. So as long as they're like not super aggressive and they wouldn't do anything to harm anyone, they're up to date on their shots, and then obviously the cost of the care.
Absolutely, yes.
That's really awesome. So how many facilities do you have in the Bay?
So I have two. I have one in Concord, California, and
Hmm.
another one in Alamo, California.
Awesome. And how long have you been in this business and you call them 6-bed
Six-bed
facilities?
care facilities.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the difference with six-bed care facilities is that it's a smaller community and it's in a home nestled in the residential communities. So it feels like home. Um, you have home cooked meals. You have connections with the staff that's helping you, and you can create your environment to feel just like where your parent or your loved one lived before. So you can put up your own artwork, do the things that you love, and keep your animals with you. There's such a huge difference when an elderly person can continue to live with their animal.
Totally.
There's a
Totally.
lot of, yeah, and the animal too. I mean, what I've seen families take the animals away from them, and
Hmm.
what happens is that the animals start to lash out because they're not sure what happened. Like, why is my loved one who I've been around for many, many years, why am I no longer with this person?
Right.
And then they start lashing out. They start peeing on the rug and, pooping, and they're just like in a panic.
Right. Right.
But when they're with their elderly person whom they've lived with for a long time, most of the time they're just really calm and they sit on their loved one's lap, and just this holistic calming being around them. And I just see a huge difference even with residents who have Alzheimer's or dementia, who can no longer remember, but just having that animal sit with them who loves them, you can see a huge difference.
Super healing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of studies around it. And, they're even bringing in animals from the shelter to it's good for both the human and the animal. It's good for the animal to have someone to pet them and be with them, but it's really good for the humans because it's really relaxing
Mm-hmm.
and it helps them just be present with this other being. So that's really beautiful. So what got you into, okay, so what got you into this? And why are you committed to these smaller facilities versus the big ones?
So I got into this because my grandmother was diagnosed. Back then they didn't call it dementia or Alzheimer's. They told us that she was senile. So she would forget to do some essential things in her life, like use the restroom or eat or, get out of bed. Like, she just had no drive, um, and never felt hungry, had a lot of pain in her legs and arms and just her body in general.
Mhm.
And my parents at the time who were taking care of her, they were the main caretakers, just didn't understand what the needs were. All we understood was like, we need to keep her at home, we need to take care of her, and this is the best thing that we can do for her. Well, she got pneumonia and was placed into the hospital, and the doctors told us that she couldn't go home. And it was terrifying for myself, my family, all the other family members. Um, and they told us that she had to be placed into a facility. And it was something that we did not want to do, and we didn't know what our options were. They gave us 24 hours to find a place. We couldn't find a place, and they placed us into a skilled nursing facility that was horrible. I remember walking into this facility, and it was like the first thing that I smelled was the smell of urine and bleach, and it was not a lovely place. I'm sure many of your listeners can relate to this. It's what most people think of when they're thinking about what to do with their parents or loved one. Like, I don't want to put them in a care home because it's going to be this awful sterile facility that smells like urine.
Right.
Well, they're not all like that. But
A lot of them are.
yeah.
And a lot of them can be really dangerous. So my first experiences, I don't know if I ever shared this with you. I might have. Christine and I have spent many hours hanging out under stars in Sedona. So I might have shared this with you. But my first experience with a old folks home, as we call them here in Minnesota, um, was when I was 5. My dad used to bring me, so my dad's a retired Lutheran minister, but he was still a minister when I was 5, and he would do um, clergy calls, go give communion to the people who were in the old folks home, in the nursing homes. And he would go with his, communion kit of wine and wafers and stuff like that and give communion to everybody. And he brought me with him. And I think he brought me with him just because I was like 5 and hanging out, so I had nothing else better to do. But the people there, the older people there, I remember one woman, her name is Rosie, and she would give me $1 to go and talk to her and just to sit and talk with her. And she would pay me. And of course, as a 5-year-old, I was like, yeah, I'm going to exploit the situation. I'm going to go talk to Rosie, get some M&Ms. And, and I'd go talk to a lot of the old people. But when we would leave, my dad, I remember he would hold my hand and like, point in the rooms as we were leaving. And he would say, please don't ever do this to me. Please, Rachel, please don't ever, ever do this to me. And, that's a lot of pressure to put on a 5-year-old child, but it has stuck with me. And, and I think about it a lot. And that's because he saw the lack of care and that sterile bleach, urine, people just sort of wasting away without any really true human interaction. And I know just from, knowing you that one of your main, like one of the big difference between your 6-bed care facilities and a regular facility is that the amount of staff you keep, even in a 6 care facility, is the same amount that they keep in a large facility. So they might have one, are they like a nurse practitioner? What are they?
So we're a non-medical home.
Mm-hmm.
So I have caregivers who are trained. They get 40 hours of training a year. They have CPR, first aid, but because they're not nurses, they spend a lot of quality time with them. So they essentially become part of the family. So each one of the family members that come into my home become a larger part of our family. And what you'll see, the difference between a large facility and a small facility, is that I staff my home with 3 caregivers during the day, and there's 6 residents, so that's a 2-to-1 ratio, as opposed to a large facility, which can be 15-to-1. And the majority of the day, you see my staff sitting with them, singing with them, dancing with them, asking them what kind of snacks they want, and trying to find like a television program that they can all laugh and sit with. And so there's a huge difference in the culture that you'll see in a smaller 6-bed facility because of that interaction. And in turn, it brings in happier lives. Not everyone's like that, of course, because you do get the grumpy older folks who just want to be alone, and we respect that too. But,
but they're not being like unseen to.
Right. We always see them, and I sit down with them, and sometimes when they're further into their dementia, some of them can't speak. But even just sitting there and holding their hand makes a huge difference. And just knowing that we see them and that we love them.
Totally.
It's huge. Yeah.
Totally. And so, yeah, that's beautiful. And, what do you think is we've talked about a few things, but what do you think is like the biggest difference between you and your facilities and a really big facility?
It's that employee turnover is huge.
Employee turnover?
Yeah. Because at a large facility, they're run like a corporation. You're not really connecting. Like I said, they have like a 15-to-1 ratio,
so they're overworked.
They're overworked, but that's also another huge difference, especially with the residents living there. They don't have time to connect with the residents, where as opposed to in a smaller 6-bed facility, I have staff that has been with me from the day I opened my doors.
Wow.
So
How long
that
have you been in business?
13 years, but I'm going on 14
So you've
in
had staff with you
October.
for 14 years
Yeah,
in a really kind of stressful and probably sad in some ways workplace.
right,
Yeah.
right. Well, they all have special hearts. They all love what they do. We are truly connected with the residents. I mean, we attend our residents' funerals. I mean, that's just like a huge family for us.
Hmm.
And that's what I love about the culture. It's not only the the residents and families that I'm caring for, it's also the staff. Because if you don't have a happy staff, that all trickles down
Right.
into the residents' lives. So
Right.
it's really a beautiful type of career if you're interested, or if anybody's interested in looking into something like this, it can be quite beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would you say some of the struggles are of the people who like the families that come to you are?
Oh gosh, there's a lot of struggle, especially with their family members who are suffering with a disease that has changed their personality.
Yes.
Um, you
Because
know,
dementia can make you mean.
it could make you mean.
Yeah.
And what you see is actually kind of like the stripped down version of who they are, like who they never really revealed, but maybe internally have felt.
Right. The
I
things that they like kept to themselves.
right, right. It's like for like what I see with some ladies who have been very religious throughout their lives, and very quiet, they're the ones that curse the most. And
Yeah, they're like, I've been holding back.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the struggles are really those family members see their loved one as a different person, and it's hard to love someone like that. I and not sorry. It's really hard for them to look at their parent the same way or their husband the same way when they're suffering through dementia,
Right.
and carrying that caregiver role makes it quite difficult. So when they bring them into our home, they can actually stop thinking about the caregiving and then start focusing on being that husband or wife or daughter or son, and it makes a huge difference. And for us, we don't know any different. Like when the person that comes into our home is the person who we learn to love, so
Yeah, it's who you
it's
know.
completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
yeah.
So, uh, do you feel like the six beds, like they're still pretty cutting edge, or are people starting to pick up on it?
I still feel like a lot of people don't know about it, especially just they in general, elder
They just don't
care.
know that it exists.
Yeah, because this is the type of subject that people place on the back burner. They don't want to think or talk about it.
Yeah.
It's so easy to just like focus on my kids. I'm going to focus on my animals. Like I don't want to think about mom and dad right now until I need to.
It's, you know what, Christine, that's how humans are with everything. I mean, we don't think about our health until it's so bad. We don't think about our animals' health a lot of times until it's really bad. And we don't want to think about our parents aging until it's so bad we can't not think about it. And, and it's really like, I get it. It's because these are scary things, but at the same time, it's like, if we are thinking about it, then we can come up with whether it's our health, our animals' health, or our parents' health, or where we're going to be, we can make good decisions with our time and money. Because with six-bed care facilities, I'm just going to assume that it's not like they're really easy to get into. I mean, do you have long wait lists?
Well, it's kind of it's kind of a hard wait list because when people need it, they need it.
Right,
And I actually do have like a pending wait list because people are always calling and wondering if I have openings.
right.
But sometimes I go through that list and I'm like, oh, they passed, or we found another place. It was urgent, and
Right.
things like that. So it's kind of an open, ongoing wait list.
Right, that makes sense. Because right, you just never know what's going to happen. And when sometimes dementia or things like that move really quickly, they
Mhm.
might be able. So, like with 6-bed care facilities. So I'm just curious. I had a cousin actually who had dementia for 10 years. He just recently passed this last year, but that's a long time to have dementia.
Mhm.
And the last couple of years, he was so far gone that he was in a lockdown sort of environment where they had to lock all the doors and had to be really careful because he was not present at all. He didn't know who he was. He didn't know who anyone was. Do you take care of people that are in those stages?
Yes, it makes me sad to hear that, because one of my residents, she came from a facility that was locked down. Her family came to me in desperate, because they're like, this is not mom. I mean, we love mom so much. We hate to see her in a locked, dark room for the majority of the day. And they wouldn't, it was a scary thing. She moved into our facility. She's one of my best residents right now. She came in really aggressive, like hitting the walls and not wanting to sleep. But we worked with her family
Hmm.
to help us through some of the nights. We worked with her doctor to change her medications. And it took a little bit of tweaking, and we used melatonin, um, kind of increased a little bit of the sleep meds. And then now we've decreased the sleep meds. Now she's barely on anything, believe it or not. And she came from a locked facility.
What? Okay, I'm totally shocked right now because that's not the answer I expected you to say. What I expected you to say is no, that's too far out of our care and we can't handle people like that because they need to be in a lockdown jail type facility. But what you're saying is that that's not necessarily true, and if they have enough people around them that are looking after them, that you can bring some life into their life even if they're not completely present.
Right. It's just like anybody. They just want to be seen. And
Oh.
if you can take the time to help somebody, you can get them out of that anxiety. And I'm most of it is anxiety.
I was just
Like
going to
they're
ask you, is it
scared.
anxiety and it's just being afraid?
Yeah. And when you're in a large facility, and most of the time when you go enter into a locked facility, you're either living alone, or no one has taken care of you, or you're living in a large facility and your care keeps increasing because of that patient to resident ratio, that they're just scared. And they get
Right.
to the state where they're like, okay, well, we can't really watch you with 15 to 1, so we're going to put you in a locked facility.
Oh, totally. And I mean, and they're highly medicated.
Highly medicated.
Highly medicated. In fact, I have an uncle right now. My aunt and uncle went into a nursing home, and it was really for my aunt. Um, she has dementia, but my uncle moved in there with her to be there. But he has he was fine before they went in, and now he's completely gone, like laying in a fetal position drooling on himself, and he can't even like talk or think. And it was really shocking for my parents because they were like, my dad's like, what happened to my brother? Like, he wasn't like that 3 weeks ago. And we've realized, oh, they're heavily medicating him, even though he was really just there to be there for his wife. And so it's really depressing. It's really sad. I love that you guys go in and try and figure out, like, if we give you extra love, extra care, sleep, pay attention to you, can we start pulling you off some of these medications that were causing you to drool on yourself and pee yourself, essentially.
Yeah. And that's what you get when you have more staff looking and working with you. In a large facility, they just can't handle all of the different personalities. And so they want you to be in a wheelchair. They want you to be calm and not have an opinion about things because it just makes it easier. They can serve more people.
Right. They want you to be in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Ugh, that's quotable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad, but it's true. And it's not because they're bad. They're doing the best they can with the amount of staff they have per person, but it sucks and it's not good. And and it's horrible for the family. So, you know, I know you've been asked this before, but I'm sure anybody watching or listening is going to be like, yeah, but those nursing homes are like $5,000 a month. Are you guys like three times that amount? Like, I mean, is it a lot more expensive to be in a 6-bed facility than in a regular place?
No, that's the surprising thing, right? Because when you're in a nursing facility,
Mhm.
they have skilled workers. So they have the nurse staff, they have the doctors. And so you're paying for all of that. And you may not necessarily need that all the time.
Right.
So when you're in a 6-bed facility, we're non-medical. So we don't have the medical salaries. But we do have skilled people coming in and out of the home. So there is that option to have like home health or, in most cases towards the end, people have hospice care. And so there's a lot of nurses coming in and out.
So, okay, so you're the same price as one of those big facilities, even though they get way more care because you don't have doctors that are just on staff and nurses on staff all the time.
Right.
But they do have the ability to be seen by medical professionals.
Yes.
Is
And
that just something that's covered with their insurance separately, or how does that work?
their insurance.
Because they have insurance anyway. So they'd be doing that like, I mean, if they really need a true medical, I mean, they already have health insurance, but their health insurance doesn't cover the nursing home.
Right.
So, yeah, so this makes sense. So why not move into a smaller facility, have a bunch of people with you hanging out with you, and when you need a doctor, you can use your health insurance to have that care.
Right. And I've seen a lot of doctors in this area that are kind of changing their format. And I actually have doctors that do house calls now. And it's really cool because it really reduces the amount of anxiety for someone with dementia or Alzheimer's that has.
Taking them into a hospital.
Right.
So they'll come to the house where they're already at and just check on
Mm-hmm.
them. That's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so what about people who like, I mean, what if somebody watching doesn't live in the Bay? Are 6 care bed facilities kind of all over the United States, or are they kind of localized into certain areas? Do you know?
Yeah, they're all over the United States. Some are heavier in other areas, but they're all available in every state.
How would somebody like look for one? Do they just search 6-bed care facility?
So residential care facilities, we're all kind of clumped into the same category. There's large facilities are also categorized as residential care facilities. But what you do want to look for is go to your state website, and you can search for elder care, and it will lead you into where residential care facilities are, because we're all regulated by the state.
Mm, mm. So just out of curiosity, like, when do you think, let's say somebody wanted to think like for themselves, like me, I'm like, well, I don't want to be thrown in a nursing home. I want a 6-bed care facility. When would I start thinking about that or talking to or researching or figuring out where I'd want to be? Like, when does that make sense? Or is that kind of a hard question to answer?
Well, I mean, right now, a lot of people, when they're looking for more care, usually the first step is like, I want to go into a larger facility, right? That's your 15-1, but there's a lot of activities, and it could possibly be a good first step, right? If you don't need a lot of care and you want to have that luxury of having a big dining room area,
Your own bathroom.
your own bathroom, it's like those high ceilings, like the things that people imagine when they're like, oh, I want to retire there. But
Yeah, it's all senior citizens, but
yeah,
we're all mobile and we can still jump on a shuttle and go shopping at the
yeah,
mall, sort of
it's
thing.
good
Yeah.
for some people,
Yeah.
absolutely. So there's people that want to do that. there's people that want to stay home. So those are usually kind of like the first step that people look at. But when it comes to when you start having more health needs, I would start looking at 6-bed care facilities instead of looking at those larger homes with all the activities, because you do pay for the activities, but if they're not doing well health-wise, their health's going to drop down significantly faster, especially when they're like, okay, well, we need to give them more medication because they're getting a little bit more difficult. Or what I've seen with some of my residents, they receive pretty much no care, and they've moved into my facility because their families are like, well, they haven't eaten all day and they
Right.
forgot to eat. I found them in the room without any clothing on and for
Totally.
half the day, and nobody was there to help them.
Nobody
And
was there to
so,
help them. Oh my God,
I,
totally. So
yeah.
my dad's the baby of his family, like 11 kids, and he's 87. So I've seen a lot of my aunts and uncles go through this. And I had an uncle that just passed away this year that was in one of those facilities paying, it was like 5,000 or $5,500 a month. And, he was in his 90s, and when his kids would come and check on him, he was like in his urine, and his place was never cleaned. They never came in and cleaned. They were never there helping. And there was so much guilt and shame that his kids had around that, because they just assumed that their dad was being taken care of because he was in a care facility.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's so common that,
Yeah. It's
that's the case.
really,
And
yeah.
you're blinded by it because when you're first taking a look at it and you're signing up, it's like, oh, dad would love to do some arts or play bingo.
Right. Oh, they have bingo night here, and there's a doctor on staff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But that's kind of the misperception about it.
Right.
Like, so if there's care needed at all, like a 6-bed care facility is an amazing option because they get to live like they're at home. They're not bound to leaving the house. I have residents that go in and out of the home. They sleep over at their children's homes.
Oh, they do.
They do. And so it makes their lives easier. It makes, they have their own living situation. And in this generation, our sandwich generation, it just makes it easier with kids who are dealing with small children and elderly parents.
Right. Well, the thing is, even if you have, like for me, part of my struggle with my parents has been, you know, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't know that I could take care of my dad during the day. I just don't know that I could take care of him. And so that it sounds like with 6-bed care facilities in your resident homes and stuff, it's that, it's kind of like they're home away from home. They're there, they live there, people are looking after them. It's awesome. But when the kids want to come pick them up and maybe bring them home for Christmas or anything, 4th of July, whatever it is, it's like, yep, they can go with you and we'll bring them back here. But when, the kids are like, cool, their children are like, we're off from work, it's a holiday, then they can really integrate back with their parents. And it's not this like scary, oh my God, my dad's drooling on himself. He can't even hold himself up because he's been so heavily medicated. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we get so much more joy out of that where, the families are no longer taking care of their loved one every day. It's like it's a good break, and you can connect with them in a more special way.
Hmm.
And I mean, I've just seen so many lives changed from this. It's not only just the resident where you see a lot more joy and happiness, but the family members as well, because it's so stressful. That's a stressful part of your life when you're worrying about your parent.
Totally. Totally. So, what are some other, or do you incorporate any other sort of alternative or holistic? I think I remember at one point you talking about that you use essential oils. Is that true? Is that correct? Did
We
I
do.
just make that up?
No, no, I love essential oils. So I encourage my family members, but then we infuse the essential oils
Yeah.
into the rooms.
Nice.
We don't put them on them unless the families want them to.
Want them, but you
Yeah,
diffuse essential oils to help just kind of calm them or relaxation, or what's really the intent behind it?
relaxation.
Mm.
Yeah, because there's a lot of anxiety, especially with people who are getting older. It's a
Mhm.
scary thing for them too. So what I've noticed is reducing that anxiety, and giving love to the elders actually makes a beautiful end of life for them as well.
Mm.
They're able to pass away in a calm, beautiful way, and I've seen many, many residents pass away in this beautiful way,
Yeah, that's true
and
with
feeling
animals as
loved.
well. Yeah. 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 That's really beautiful. So when somebody is looking for a 6-bed resident facility, what would be the something that's like, this is what they should look for? This should be
Well,
on their radar.
yeah, I would definitely look for the smells. Like that's one thing. Like like if
What is
there's,
your nose telling you?
yeah, just like animals, right?
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
already know right away, like your senses.
Mm.
Um, you want to check to see um, the staff, like who they are, because they are the ones that are going to be caring for your loved one. So you want to make sure that, like who's the main staff there? How long have they been there?
Ooh, that's a good
But
question. How long have they been there? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. How long has well, I mean, how long has the operator been operating care facilities? Because that's also something really important. We want someone who knows what they're doing.
Hmm.
I mean, I was once there where I didn't really know what I was doing, and we just started, but I had amazing staff who has been doing it for a long time, and they actually helped guide me to become who I am today. Um,
And
and,
people come and seek you out now and to help you set up their 6-bed care facility, correct?
right, right,
Yeah,
and
you guys,
it's really
Christine is such
exciting.
an expert in this field. She's being sought out to train other people how to do this, which is really, really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the most difficult part for an operator is really maintaining that staff.
Mm.
There's a lot of rotation with staff because there's just so many places they can go and offer their services.
Mm.
So finding a staff that's stable is important
How
because,
have you kept your staff with you so long?
well, I really think that it's the culture that we have in the house. I treat everybody like family. I don't treat them like subordinates. Like
Mhm.
we're a team and we're all there to work together, and we sit down weekly. We talk about each resident, what their likes, what their dislikes are, if there's any changes in their care. And I think that also having 3 people on staff makes it less stressful because um, there's a huge part of the day where things are really busy. And if you only have 2 people on staff, or some houses only have one person on staff, it can be very, very stressful,
Right.
and you'll get burned out quickly.
Hmm. So you always have 3 people working a shift.
I do. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that
For
that's
6 people.
for
So
six
one,
people.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And thank you. Um, but it does make a difference because I see a lot of caregivers getting burnt out, and caregiver burnout is a thing.
Right.
People get
Yeah.
tired, and then
Yeah.
then they get mean.
Totally. And you don't want, I mean, that's the thing is you don't want somebody burnt out and angry when they're taking care of people with dementia. Like that's, or who are just feeble and can't take care of themselves. Like that's a recipe for disaster.
Right. And same goes for family. I mean, that's what my family went through, is that my parents had caregiver burnout, and my my dad went from really,
With your
really
grandma?
nice
Are
with
you
my
talking about
grandma.
here with your
Yeah, with
grandma?
my grandma. So he went from really, really nice, and we were trying to like make all of her meals that she loved just to get her to eat. And then, after some point of time, it was just like, okay, I can't take this. Why are you not eating?
Right. Because it's like we all have full-time jobs and we're all working and everything. And then it's just, and the thing is that, he was probably grieving as well, the loss of his mother, and wasn't even really maybe aware of it at the time.
Right.
Because grief shows up as anger, grief shows up as shame, it shows up as guilt, it shows up as depression, it shows up as a lot of different emotions. And that's why I consider grief to be like one of the angry, like ugliest emotional monsters out there, because it's so unpredictable.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I've had family members in my house where they're like, well, I mean, we're going to move out of state and we're totally comfortable now leaving mom here. And we still visit her twice a month. And they'll just fly in, and it hasn't really changed much. Like, mom's happy, and we love her,
They
and
just feel safe.
yeah, everybody's safe.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Well, I love that you do this, and I love that this is your mission in the world. And would you say this really became your mission because of your grandma, just seeing what happened to her?
Absolutely. Yeah, just seeing what happened to her and my family. We had no idea what to do or where to go, or even that six bed care facilities existed. And so after she passed and I finished college, I found out that there was this really amazing thing called, smaller six bed care facilities. And I'm like, that's where I need to go. That's what I want to do. And it's a thankless job, people like, to me, it's just so beautiful to help families in that situation, because I know exactly how they felt when I was in their position.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, I really love your work in this world. And I know that when you spoke at the Women Speak International Festival, everybody was in the audience crying and they were like, I love what you do in this world, because it's something that none of us escape. We all get older, and we know people who get older, and then we're faced with this dilemma of not really knowing what to do, whether it's for our parents or maybe ourselves or maybe our loved ones, right? Like there's so many different avenues, or maybe even parents who their children end up with dementia, midlife, or that sort of thing, and then not knowing how to take care of them. So um I appreciate you and your work in this world. So if people want to find you, what's your website?
It's homesweetcarehomes.com.
Awesome. And we'll put the links below. And is there anything else you want to share or let anybody know?
Well, I would just love to change people's perspectives about looking at six beds, because it's such a beautiful path that, instead of looking at the large facilities, that six bed facilities are there. You don't have to be sick. It could be kind of like just like living in a home with roommates, and
Mm,
then you just specialize in, you just look at what type of care you need as you get older. So socialization is really important as you're aging, and you get that all within a six bed facility and connection. So I just hope that it's not a back burner conversation anymore, and
mm.
that we can just talk about it openly, and it's not a scary thing for people to say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to live at home alone anymore. I want to find a community where I'm seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I hope to
Yeah.
change.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Christine. And to everyone watching, I hope you found this helpful. Find Christine, watch her. She's changing the world. She's helping other people do this. And you can follow her online. She's got Instagram. I'm going to post all of the links below. And thank you for watching.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.